I think it really just comes down to self-talk. The voice in our head that tells us that we can't do it.
Fighting the demons, the voices in their head to tell you that you're not good enough, that, hey, that'll never happen for you. Hey, Becca, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited today. Today is going to be one of the first times that we ever tried doing this podcast via FaceTime. Uh, I know we had talked about it, one of the conversations that came up, and I'm really excited to have you today. I really want to thank you for being here.
Of course, I've heard lots about it. Glad to finally make it on.
So I believe when we were having a conversation about what to make this topic about this podcast, you had brought up the idea of having a conversation about dreaming big.
Yes.
What is it about this topic that stood out to you when we tried to come up with the topic? Why this topic?
So, as you know, I do health and life coaching and I like to focus on confidence and mindset coaching. And so, with that, obviously, I'm doing a lot of work with people's goals and a lot of times the challenges that come up with that. And I think that's just a pretty basic, but also relevant challenge and something that everyone can work on very realistically. So I just figured that it was a good topic that everyone could get some value from it.
Yeah, so to the people that are listening to the podcast, Becca's been my life coach for about 3 years now. Been very helpful in navigating through a lot of the challenges in life, and this definitely being one of them. And I know that it was something that I've struggled with my whole life, and up until recently, being able to find the confidence in myself to really think big and really dream big. Why do you believe it is that people struggle so much with this topic of being able to dream big? What do you think it is that they're lacking or something that they feel that they're missing in order to have this big thinking mentality? What it is that why do you believe people struggle with this?
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to self-talk and the story that we are telling ourselves, the voice in our head that tells us that we can't do it. And so which I love this topic too, because the thing about self-talk is that you can work on it, you can improve it. Once you just, first of all, acknowledge what's going on in your head and how you're talking to yourself, then you can start changing it. So I really like it because it's something that you can work on and improve. It's not like, oh, this is how I am, like it's how I'm always gonna be. But yeah, what I really think it comes down to is just the stories that we're telling ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, and just really at the end of the day, limiting beliefs that hold us back.
Well, one of the things that is one part of it. How you talk to yourself is very important, and it's something that everybody struggles with, right? Fighting the demons, the voices in their head of not like they to tell you that you're not good enough, that hey, that'll never happen for you. This is because you're not that person. That these things are going to happen to you. So that is definitely part of the whole conversation. However, that being able to have the imagination, to be able to have the imagination to say, I want to dream big. I really want these things out of my life. That's one of the things that I've always struggled with. Being somewhat of an introvert myself, I feel like to a certain extent, but extroverts tend to have this very naturally, where they have a lot of imagination of how they see their lives being, how they see they're going in certain ways. And what is about this, and what's some advice that you can give to somebody that's struggling with this, somebody that's struggling to be able to have the imagination to dream big things in life? What would be one thing that you would be able to teach them to say, if this is a if this is a topic that you struggle with, this is what I advise you to do.
I think it's interesting that you think that introverts and extroverts have different kind of goals in mind. I really do think that it comes back to, if it's not the self-talk, it's just really the confidence in yourself. Like if I'm not very confident in myself, then I'm not going to even try to have big dreams because I'm just going to believe I can't do it and that's just going to make me feel worse about myself. And so to kind of keep myself safe and protect myself, that's the role of our brain, is just to keep ourselves safe. It's not supposed to grow us or challenge us. So our brain is really protecting us by being like, okay, let's be responsible. Let's have small dreams. That way we can't fail, we can't mess up, we can't look bad. So I really think it goes to confidence and really what you're willing to do and put yourself out there and be willing to fail. And so what I would tell people and how I always start one of my first calls with people during coaching calls is, if you could wave a magic wand and get what you want in the next 6 months, whatever it is you want, it's a magic wand, what would that be? And that's really just trying to remove any limitations, anything that might be screening you from really seeing what it is that you want. And that really helps kind of break people out of that and just be like, okay, this is what I want if I could really just have it. So I would say just imagine that.
That's really good. If you had a magic wand and you could get anything you wanted in the next 6 months, like, what would it be? That's a really good place to start. Or even, let's just say, in 1 year, or even if you let's say, hey, if there was anything that you could have in the next 3 years, like, what would it be? That's a really good place to start in your imagination and be like, "Hey, I would really like this. I would really like those things." And the self-talk is really defeating the demons in your mind, right? The negativity that you're dealing with in order to build up that confidence and say, you know what, I can do it. Like this is actually something that I can accomplish. And being able to establish the goals and some kind of plan in order to get there. So
Mhm.
that is really good. I really, really like that. That's powerful. And it's so important because it's something that everybody struggles with. Everybody struggles with the negativity. And I believe that when they're struggling with it, and when, let's just say, people do start, right? They do start doing taking your advice and following that path of, all right, I'm going to dream big. And these are the things that I want to do, and start talking positive to themselves. They're going to find some form of resistance they start confronting, and a little bit of discomfort and maybe even a little bit of pain involved in it.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe what's happening there is you're killing off your old self, the
Yeah.
part of you that's dying, right? Because something new is being born, a new habit, a new set of thinking, a new thought process to the formula that you're trying to create. So it's somewhat painful, and I believe that's where people kind of quit a little bit, or
Yeah.
they start like, all right, this is not feeling very good. I'm out of my comfort zone. This is being I'm feeling very insecure. I'm feeling very discomfortable, basically.
Yes, which goes back to that whole point of, like, again, your brain is there to keep you safe, and as soon as you start changing those thoughts that you've had for your whole life that have come from your family, your culture, your failures in the past, like, whatever it is that you grew up being told, like, "That's bad, that's good," like, all of these things have created that self-talk, and as soon as you start challenging those things and trying to change it, your brain starts freaking out. It's like, "No, like, this has kept us safe our whole life. We've got here based off of that. Like, what are you doing?" That's when we tell ourselves like, "Hey, it's okay, like, thank you for trying to protect me, but, like, we have better tools now that are actually going to be a lot better, that's gonna help us achieve our goals and not hold us back."
And something that really came to me recently, and that I've been thinking, and through a lot of the tools that you helped me build up through our sessions, is when I am having these thoughts, and and something that hit me last night, and I kind of woke up a little early, and I was having these my mind started kind of going off, and just certain thoughts started coming to my head, just negative stuff. And I started thinking in my head, like, what part of these thoughts are being useful? And I started telling myself, I'm like, you know what? None of this is being useful. None of this is being helpful. None of these thoughts that I'm having right now are being useful in any way that are going to make my life better. And I said, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm totally wasting my time on this. And instantly my brain said, I agree. And it just stopped. And I'm like, all right, let's think about something else now.
That's
So
awesome.
I started following this little pattern now. And today I caught myself doing it a lot today, where I started having either some kind of negative thoughts or some kind of thoughts coming in. And I started asking myself, what part of those thoughts are useful or helpful in any way? And I started saying, no, they're not. They're actually just, there's zero value into what they're trying to apply to my life right now. So I just started tossing them out. And it was a very helpful tool to be able to help me through. And it's funny because it just kind of clicked today as I was going. I told my daughter as we were going to our golf lesson, I was like, it's really important that you protect your thoughts, and that you make sure that you're only letting your brain, you're only allowing yourself to be influenced by thoughts that are going to be useful or valuable.
Mhm, and I love how, like, curious you get there because I that's something I try to, like, instill in my clients is, like, always get really curious about, like, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling because there is a reason for it. It's because of the way that you're talking to yourself, and so the fact that you're able to be like, "Okay, I'm not feeling good about this, like, why? Like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, it's because I'm telling myself these things." Like, they're not real. It's not truth. I think that's something that a lot of people do is we mistake our inner voice for the truth. We just tell ourselves, like, "I'm not the person that can do this. People don't like me when I do this," or we just start mistaking the voice in our head for the truth, and that's when we really get stuck, and the fact that you're able to be like, "No, like, that's not true." Like, you got really curious, and you were able to get to the bottom of it and change it, and look where you are now, and I love to hear
Yeah,
that.
and I don't know where it all came from, but it did click really well. But there was a person I remember hearing him talk, and he made this comment about when somebody says something insulting towards you, they try to make an insulting comment where they call you a name or whatever it might be, just something that they're trying to offend you in some manner. And he says the first thing that you should do is ask yourself, what part of that statement is true? Somebody calls you stupid, and you'd be like, is that true? Like, I'm not stupid. I read, I went to college, like I was able to build certain, things in my life. Like there's no way somebody that was stupid would be able to do such a thing. So that statement is not true. So I just start applying that to everything that you do, right? Even when you're having a conversation with yourself, your brain's trying to bring in negative thoughts or something negative towards you, be like, what part of that statement is true? And the other part to add to it is what part of these thoughts are going to be useful and valuable, are going to make my life better. And if none of those boxes get checked off, be like, all right, we're tossing these out. These aren't going to be any useful anyway. So very, very powerful. I don't know if there's anything that we didn't cover, but one of the things that you did mention earlier was you had said while you're dreaming big, right? And we can shift towards this a little bit, is to have the courage and be willing to fail.
Mhm.
That was really good. And that's really good because it's something, part of that process we were talking about earlier, is that a little piece of you is dying, right? So if a little piece of you is dying, is because you're growing and you're becoming a better version of yourself. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to take that leap of faith and being able to say, hey, it's okay if I fail. And being able to have that courage. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, no, that's always good, that when you're failing, that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and growing, and every time I make a mistake, every time I do something wrong, I always ask myself, like, "Okay, like, what am I learning in this moment?" And instead of, like, our failures being a reason to, like, quit or give up or, like, shrink, I always try to be like, "Okay, like, there's a lesson in this, like, if anything, there has to be something that I could take away from this. It couldn't have been for nothing," and so that always helps, and then when that happens again, you know what you can do, and you'll just continue to grow, and I feel like you're always telling me, like, you love failures, you love mistakes because it just means that you're growing. I feel like that's something that you say a lot.
A quote that I've always said, and I've said it on a few of the podcasts, is that if you're not making a lot of mistakes in life, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
It's good, and I like it, and one of the good takeaways I took from one of your classes that I really loved is you said, "Failure is feedback."
Mhm.
And it's very true, right? Because when you're failing, it's some kind of feedback. All right, what did we do right? What did we do wrong?
Yes.
'Cause when you're making mistakes and you are failing, there's gonna be a certain things that you did right and certain things that you did wrong. But if you fail, you'd be like, "We did too many things wrong, and that's
Mhm.
why we failed." Because you can have some level of success as long as you do, 80% of it right, 20% wrong. But if you did 60% wrong, 40% right, it's probably not gonna work out.
Yeah.
So failure is feedback. So
Yeah, it's kinda like science, like, it's like you're doing an experiment and, like, you can't get to the end of the experiment unless you try a bunch of things and figure out what works, like, it's just part of the process. I think we think that it's, again, bad, that's what we were told, but, like, again, that's something that you can reframe and tell yourself a different story of just, like, failure is feedback. I'm not making a mistake unless I'm not making a mistake. Is that the quote?
if I'm not making
Or
mistakes, that's an
yeah.
inspiration.
But, yeah, again, I think it all really goes back to just the story that you're telling yourself at the end of the day of when you make that mistake.
I love it. A lot of good takeaways. Um, dreaming big. Dreaming big, having that big dream. And one of the big things is, as far as me believing in this, is a great story that I remember listening to about an astronaut. So an astronaut, since he was a little kid, 5, 6 years old, he always wanted to be an astronaut. That was his big dream. And his whole entire life, studied since he was in high school. He already had his vision of what he was going to do. That was his big, big dream, becoming an astronaut. So he goes to college, joins the Navy, Air Force, and eventually, he's 40 years old and he's on the moon. And he finally gets there, right? His big dream of becoming an astronaut and going to the moon. And he gets there and he couldn't help to ask himself the question, now what?
Yeah.
So he was like, "What
Isn't
the heck?
that
My whole
true?
entire life led up to this moment. I'm here now, and now I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do with my life." So I do believe that it's important that your dreams need to be big. They need to be to the point where almost unattainable, where you are embarking a journey to try to accomplish them, but try to really more fall in love with the person that you're becoming on that journey,
Yeah,
and really fall in love with the process of enjoying the experiences that you're having while you're trying to do them.
absolutely. My dad has always told me, like, he's failed big in his life, but he's also achieved a lot of really amazing things, and something that he, like, grew up teaching us was that, like, he's done the thing where, like, you have that big goal and then you hit it and, like, you're happy for, like, that one day, you get that car or, whatever it is, and then the day after you're like, "Okay, like, now again, like, now what?" Or, like, you get the house and then it's, like, good for, like, a couple months and then it's like, "Now what?" And so, I think that was also just, like, something that we learned growing up was, like, it's not about, like, the next thing, it's really about the process and really finding fulfillment in the goals that you're chasing because it's really just it's not about, like, the end, it's about the journey along the way, as, like, cheesy as that sounds, but
I love it. Becca, I really wanna thank you for being on this. This is a great topic. I hope the listeners took a few takeaways out of it to be able to apply to their life, and I hope to see you on a lot more. I think we have a few more ideas bringing up, and
I know.
thank you so much for being on this one, and
Thank you for having me, this is awesome.
we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, guys.
Alright.